What's going on, everybody? It's Quantize here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a beat from start to finish, melody and drums. First things first, you're going to want to make sure that you have a drum kit. I'm going to link this Metro Boomin drum kit down below in the link. So after you know that you have a good drum kit, I have a few other ones. You're going to want to start with a melody. So where you go to do that is you open up your channel rack, which is this button right here. And don't worry about that. It's going to look like this. Alright, so you can just delete all these. If you want, you could play with those just to see what basic things you can get out of using this, but you're really going to want to use the piano roll whenever you're laying down your drums and your melody, because it's going to make it sound 100% better. So we're going to right click on this, replace, and then we're going to open up a synth. So I use Citrus, but you can use any of these, and then there's also different types of sounds that you can use, like these are the drums, and a whole bunch of others, but I use Citrus, so it's down here. It's the second from last, so click that. It'll open this up. Don't get too scared, just click on the presets, left click, and we're going to open up something basic. So we're going to go to the piano, and we're going to go to realistic 3, any of them really, doesn't matter. And I'm going to right click on this again, click piano roll, and then we're going to play our notes. So I'm going to be playing in C minor. So let me lay down some notes and make a simple melody. If you don't know any music theory, then I suggest you look up a certain scale. Like sad scales are usually in C minor, or different ones. Sometimes E minor sounds good to be sad, and then there's happy. Usually it's major scales that are happier. So let's place down the root note. See, it just sounds like a regular piano. Whenever you start out, make sure you have this on step so it doesn't get confusing, and that just snaps it to step instead of like none or like a fourth or what have you. I'm gonna change my BPM to 100, and I'm gonna place down some long notes, and this is C minor, so I could use these notes. So these are the notes. This is going to be the bass pattern. So then we can start layering it. So I want to see what sounds good with both of these. I like that combo, so we're going to add another one. Give it bottom. Sweet spot. And then we can just change the preset. It doesn't have to be a piano, but if you want it to be, you could keep it. I'm going to use this kind of as a pad because it's layered, so it's going to add a lot of ambience, and then I'll add something more like a pluck or a piano or something more short term. So let's just choose a random pad. A lot of these are really good sounds. So I like this fairy one. So we're going to copy these, and I'm going to go over to my template, my beat template, and I'm going to explain to you that in just a second. So let me hop over there. Alright, I copied it over to my beat template. So these will all say insert 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll be gray, and this will be gray too, track 1, 2, 3, 4. So don't worry about this, but I just have some preset settings, so it kind of helps me keep organized, so then I can have a quicker workflow and make beats quicker. So I'd really recommend getting everything organized before you start making beats. And also, whenever you export and save things, make sure you have them in folders that you know how to get to like 10 years down the road, so that it's not all jumbled up and confusing, because you always want to have access to your work, and you don't want anything to get lost, and that's how it gets lost in the long run. So, and also make sure you back it up on hard drives. It's really important. Anyways, back to the beat. So I just have a simple melody right here, and I'm going to route it to my melody track. And on all of these, I just have a simple EQ. So these should be at the bottom. So it should be after all the effects. So this EQ just cuts out some of the lows and some of the highs. I don't like all that. Like, you can kind of hear it. It's too loud in the high end. So I want to cut some of that out and give it a nice curve so it sounds natural. Maybe some of the low range, because you want to leave space for the drums. So that sounds good. Now I'm gonna add something that's more instant and quicker than that long pad. So we can use Citrus for this again because they have so many presets. Look how many presets are in this. It's insane. You can make so many different sounds using just this one synthesizer. Alright, so you could use anything under the guitar. You can use the ARP. These are all pluck type sounds. They even have bass in this. They have bells, short synth, piano, synth string. They have so much stuff. But anyways, again, I'm just going to choose something simple like the classic piano or realistic, and then I'm just going to lay down notes. I'll route it to my counter melody. It's really important. Make sure that when you find a scale, you don't change it anywhere throughout the beat. Unless you're really advanced, make sure you stay to the same scale and the same notes that you're using throughout, or it will not sound good, especially when you get to the drums too. Let me choose something like a pluck. So I'm gonna look for another one, and then I'll be back once I found one. Alright, so I found this Klug. I guess that's how you say it, under ARP. So it sounds pretty good together. A lot of these sound good when they're mixed together, as long as they're in the same scale. So let's play these. Whenever you click on the EQ, this is mainly mid-range. So I'm gonna open up the high range for this one a little bit, and then cut out a little bit more. Because you don't need low end for this one, but I want to keep some of the high end. So it's not overlapping, but just a little bit it is. Because when it overlaps, then it starts to mix together and it won't sound good. You need to give your instruments space in between each other, because if they don't, then they're going to start to mix together and it won't sound good. Your ears won't be able to register as two distinct different instruments, and it'll sound just crappy. And trust me, you want to make sure you equalize your stuff and equalize all the bad frequencies out. See, if you have headphones on, listen to the whole thing. You can hear once I lower this, it kind of sounds like there's more space for the first instrument that I added. So let's take this out. Now there's room for both of them to breathe together, and it sounds like it's coherent. You can listen to both of them simultaneously, but just keep it up. Alright, so that's pretty good. So the next thing I go to is the clap/snares. This is the easiest one because it's almost the same in every single hip hop beat. So let's just find a clap that we like. So we have the claps in right now. Basically what you do is just add 1 after the 4, 8, and 4 if you have it on step on this magnet. Make sure it's on step. So it's just the first 4, clap, 8, clap, 8, clap, 8, clap, And then it'll be 4 at the end. Alright, so then let's go to the hi-hats. It's very simple. I'm going to just find one that I want. Just take it to none, and then just take it down all the way. Then go back to 1/4. Just want to route that to my hi-hats. I just have an EQ on it again, nothing crazy. It's just cutting out all the low end again so I can separate the instruments so they're not overlapping, so that the frequencies don't mix together. I brought this way too far out. Alright, there we go. So we have that, so we can add some rolls in later to the hi-hats after we add the 808. I like this one, the sound of that one is pretty good. Open that up, throw it in there. Alright, so I got these notes laid down for the 808 pattern. Sounds pretty good so far. It's not too loud, but I'll worry about that in a little bit. You really just want to start out with making the beat first and then worrying about leveling it and adding all the effects on later. But it does help to have a template set up like I do. So now let's go to some kicks. You just want to match the same pattern as the 808 and then just maybe shorten them up a little bit. So yeah, we're just going to leave that like that. So now the kick and the 808 makes it hit a little bit harder. So to program the 808 real quick, you just want to open this up, turn the attack all the way down, decay all the way down, sustain down, release time down, hold all the way up, turn the attack time at like 2%, and then the pre-delay time at like 3%. So then once the kick hits, it'll be slightly before the 808 and it makes it sound more like one instrument. So we'll do the same to the kick, except we're just gonna leave it all at 0 except for hold. So it makes it sound like the kick is leading it with the instrument. So it's just a little tip that you can do. And then afterwards we'll multiply the volume so that it sounds a little bit louder, and then add a few more effects to make the bass sound really loud, because that's the main part of your song. You want your bass to be smacking. Alright, so I added just a little perk in. So yeah, now after you have all of these laid out, you want to right click on pattern and then click split by channel, and it'll give you all the instruments separated. And I already routed them to my track, but this would be the time to route it to your mixer channel. So we'll delete all that. Then I'm just gonna lay out everything where it should go. So this is the melody. It's a counter. It's a clap. Put it for the snare. Hi-hat. 808. Kick. And percussion instruments. Put it for the snare as well. Yep, so that's everything laid out. Now you can copy this. And then just get some copies of these. Alright. Now you gotta do your leveling. So open up your channel rack and then look at your master and solo out each instrument, and then make sure it's hitting at 12 decibels right here where my pointer is, so that each instrument is feeding in at exactly the same decibel range, so then it's easier to mix later on, trust me. So it's set about 12 decibels right here. Raise it just a little bit. We'll solo this one. 12 decibels, clap. Hi-hat. 808. Kick. And then percussion. Alright. So now everything's the same exact volume. Doesn't sound too good. So this is how the instruments should be ordered from loudest to quietest. You want your bass, so you want your 808s and your kicks to be the loudest. And then you want your snares to be the second loudest. Then want your hats to be the third loudest, your hi-hats, your percussions. And then you want your melody to be laying under all of the drums. So just a tiny bit quieter than everything else, and they shouldn't be too distinctly loud or quiet from each other. Just make sure that the 808s are definitely the loudest and the melody is definitely the quietest relative to each other, but don't make them too distinct. That's very important. Having good headphones would help you out with that. So let's start with the 808. First thing we're going to do is program it. We're going to click on this wrench, so we're going to just left click on it. Open up the wrench, then turn up this volume multiplier. This multiplies the level of the volume, the decibels. So you want to make sure that this is not turned up too loudly, or it's going to distort it. So see how loud that gets? So I think at like 140 it's pretty good. And then we're going to go to the kick and we'll do the same thing, but not too much. 135 is pretty good. So it already sounds way better for the bass. And that's going to be the main part of your song next to the melody. So I can say with confidence that those two are the loudest. make sure you click on the instrument over here on the sidebar to do the piano roll. If it's not showing up in green in the channel rack, that means you're on the wrong instrument, so you don't want to lay down notes on the wrong instrument. So I know where each one of these darker lines are, bass is hitting. So I want to add a roll wherever the bass is hitting. It adds a little bit more bounce. So I added in a few rolls right here, and then I'm going to change the velocity every other. So I'm going to put down the velocity like 0.2 decibels every other one. And this gives a ear candy type effect. Makes it a little bit more interesting to listen to. But you don't want to do it by too much, and it doesn't have to be perfect either, just enough. But don't over exaggerate. This producing is all about the small changes that end up in the long run making it sound really good. So it gives it a little bit more bounce. It's not a crazy hi-hat pattern, but it'll do for this tutorial video. 808s and the kicks are kind of intricate, but everything else is really simple. Like the melody is super simple. The 808 is pretty much the only thing that you should really pay attention to. Everything is pretty simple. So after you have your basic, after you have down the beat, I could show you, I have all of my drums routed to one channel and one channel only. So basically it's going to be routed to the master like that. Let's say this is one of your instruments. You just want to left click unroute it, then route it to one channel where you're going to have effects where they're all going to be pushed through. And just make sure that it says route to this track only, so it's not going anywhere else. So you can do that by right clicking and then left clicking that. And then on this, I have a limiter, so you can open up this. This is a compressor actually. You don't want to use a limiter part of this, but go to the compressor and then go to default, the drum compression. Default by itself is pretty good. And then just lower down the volume. It'll give a parallel compression type vibe. So I like about that, like 30%. Then stereo enhancer. This I can merge. I can do stereo merging. So do like 30%. Put the drums towards the middle. And again, this is just the drums. And then some distortion. So you could copy these settings that I have right here. See how much louder the drums get. So then that's where you want to like kind of lower your 808 so it's not too loud, because again, you don't want to have anything too extremely different from each other, or you're not going to be able to master it well and it's not going to compress well at the end. Sounds pretty good. I'm gonna go in and do some EQing real quick, just to take out all the frequencies that really aren't necessary. Just to make sure they're all nice and separated. So now it's time to actually make the pattern of the entire song. So you want to remove all the drums. Usually it's just the melody at the start, and you don't want to have it more than like 2 for hip hop, 2 bars for hip hop songs, because it'll be too long and then the listener or the artist will be uninterested and then they won't want to listen to it anymore and they'll just go to the next song. So make sure your intro isn't too long before it goes into the drop. And this is where you can start adding different effects and then start putting certain instruments in reverse. Like let's say I want to put this instrument in reverse. Well, to get it into an audio clip, I have to click up here, right click it, render as audio clip, and then I do it in wave 32 point sync, and then you can just copy all these. This is the best settings to export it at. And then there you have it. It's right here in a audio form. So we'll put that as smooth. We'll route it to the same thing. It's the counter melody. And then let's say you want to put it in reverse. So you just double click it, click reverse. It's in reverse. There you go. So we can have this at maybe the beginning or somewhere in the middle of the song. So we just want to make sure it's the same length. And then we'll just start it in reverse. So there's different ways you can approach this. You can put certain instruments in reverse. You could put a snare in reverse. You could put anything in reverse, and it probably will sound pretty good, unless it's the whole song. But only do like one instrument. You don't want to have everything follow the same rule, you know what I mean? Unless it's the basic fundamental rules like having compression and all of that and equalization. But just make sure that not everything is overdone by one effect. That's what newer artists tend to do, is they tend to add way too much reverb on something or way too much delay on something. It's all about getting things structured before you start adding a whole bunch of effects. So yeah, it's just this melody in reverse, and then once it hits that, it'll sound kind of like a lead up, and it'll give a different vibe for the intro, and then it'll smack right here. So now we could go to a rise. So let's find a riser. These are pretty fire. This one's pretty good. Listen to this. So you just gotta figure out if it matches the beat. If it doesn't, I'm gonna change it, but so that's pretty good. So I might want to pitch it down because it goes a little bit loud. I'm gonna take out some of the ending, put it on smooth so it doesn't clip. That's pretty fire. It's a good intro. So yeah, this is the basic 2-bar hook right here. I'm going to start it with the hook, and depending on how you want your song structured for your artist, or if you're the artist yourself, then you could just change this up. But for me, I'm going to copy this over, and then I'm just going to take out some of the instruments for the verse. So these two boxes are going to be the hook, this will be the intro, and then over here is going to be the first verse, and then I'll just redo that 3 times. So I took out the perks, took out the hi-hats up here. We're going to leave the kicks and the claps, and then we'll bring in the percussions for the second bar. The first verse, we'll do the same over here. So I just added a clap here at the end, and then added the reverse back at the end again, and then just had 2 more of the melodies at the very end right there. So yes, it's pretty simple. Just have, this is how I'm looking at it as a structure. So these 2, hook, hook, hook. So it's 3 hooks, and then there's 3 verses, and an outro and an intro. So it's a simple setup, and it doesn't take too long for it to hit, and it doesn't have too long of an outro, and in between the hooks the verses aren't too long, so it won't be like you forgot what the hook was after you listen to the verse, but it's also like it's not too short either. So it's kind of, you're just listening for the sweet spot and what sounds like most of other mainstream songs that did very well, that are successful. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's listen to the whole thing. There's more that I can get into in depth. If you have a question about any specific plugin or effect or way of doing something, let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe, don't forget. And now let's listen to the whole thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you guys learned something. Again, let me know if you have any questions. I'll make a new video about it and I'll respond to you in the comments. I'll try to answer it the best I can. But yeah, other than that, have a good day. Peace out.